Listen closely. You could read every self-help book out there, binge countless videos, and affirm to yourself over and over that you love who you are. But if you're missing this one crucial piece, real self-love will always feel just out of reach. Now, I'm not here to throw more theory at you. I'm here to hand you something far more powerful, a key insight no one talks about. It's a truth uncovered by Carl Jung, and once you hear it, the way you see yourself and your relationships will never be the same. So ask yourself, are you ready to hear it? If you're watching this, then some part of you already knows there's something more waiting for you. This isn't only about embracing your shadow or trying to balance your inner energies. It's about taking those deep ideas and using them to create real, lasting change in your life. By the end of this video, you won't just understand why love has felt so distant, you'll begin to feel the shift within you. By the time you finish this, you'll have a clear, down-to-earth strategy you can actually use, one that will transform how you relate to yourself, and naturally, how you connect with others. This isn't just talk. It's about doing. Your relationships don't just happen by accident. The people you're drawn to, or pushed away from, reflect the unresolved parts of you. It's not random. It's personal. Think back to the last person who stirred something powerful in you. Maybe it was love, maybe frustration. Either way, that experience wasn't meaningless. That person wasn't just a temporary character in your story. They were a mirror, showing you something you might not even realize is buried deep inside. Maybe you're often attracted to people who make you feel unsure of yourself, like you're never enough. Or maybe you often find yourself annoyed by people who display traits you secretly dislike, not just in them, but in yourself. Today, you're going to learn how to turn that frustration into something transformative. You'll discover how to use that mirror, the reflection others offer, to uncover the hidden parts of you that are quietly pleading for attention and healing. Because until you face those parts, you'll keep chasing love in all the wrong directions. The real question isn't, why is this person acting like that? The real question is, what is this person revealing about me? This idea, the relational mirror, goes much deeper than it seems. When someone stirs up a powerful emotional response in you, it's often not about them at all. You're seeing a projection of your own shadow at work. So take a closer look at the patterns in your relationships. They're not just coincidences. They're clues. Have you noticed yourself being pulled toward the same kind of people again and again? Or maybe you go out of your way to avoid certain types altogether. Either way, these patterns aren't random. They're telling you something important. Whether it's attraction or aversion, both are powerful signals. They're two expressions of the same deeper truth, a reflection of what's happening inside you. Your reactions to others reveal more about your inner world than you might think. The next time you feel an intense attraction to someone, pause and ask yourself, what is it about them that I find so compelling? What qualities am I drawn to? Could it be that these traits are parts of me I've never fully embraced or allowed to shine? Maybe you admire someone's freedom, their spontaneity, because your own life has felt boxed in by routines and expectations. Now flip the coin. When someone really gets under your skin, don't just react, reflect. Ask yourself, what exactly is it about this person that bothers me so much? Is it possible that I carry that same trait, but I've buried it so deep I barely recognize it? Maybe it's arrogance in others that triggers something in you. And maybe, just maybe, it's because you wrestle with your own feelings of superiority, hidden under a layer of shame or denial. This level of self-awareness can change everything. But let's be real, it takes guts. It demands raw, unfiltered honesty with yourself. And that's where real transformation begins. You have to be willing to face the parts of yourself you've kept in the shadows, even the ones you've hidden so well, you barely realize they're there. Because real healing starts the moment you recognize what you've been avoiding. And often, it's the toughest relationships, the ones that frustrate you the most, that hold the greatest potential for growth. That person who always seems to get under your skin? They might actually be pointing you towards something inside that's been quietly waiting to be acknowledged. These encounters aren't random. Certain people cross your path for a reason. They're like karmic messengers, guiding you toward wholeness and self-integration. But here's the twist. Just as others reflect pieces of you, you're also a mirror for them. And once you truly understand that, something shifts. You begin to relate with more compassion, but also more responsibility. You realize that when someone reacts harshly or negatively toward you, it often has less to do with you, and more to do with what's unresolved in them. What they're really reacting to is the reflection of themselves they catch in you. And when you understand that, you don't have to get defensive. Instead, you can meet it with empathy and insight. Because the goal here isn't just to spot the patterns, it's to actually shift them. Once you begin to see which part of yourself is being mirrored in a challenging relationship, that's your invitation to start the healing process. And as you begin to embrace and reintegrate those neglected or rejected pieces of yourself, you'll see something amazing. Your relationships will start to shift too, almost effortlessly. But don't expect it to happen overnight. Integration takes time. Be patient with yourself. Think of it like conducting an experiment. Observe your emotional responses the way a scientist would study something fascinating. No judgment. Just curiosity and awareness. And over time, you'll begin to notice something subtle but powerful. The people who once triggered you so deeply won't hold the same emotional charge anymore. You'll feel lighter, clearer, and far more in control of your inner world. As you grow, you'll start to notice something beautiful. Healthier, more balanced relationships will begin to show up in your life. You won't keep attracting people who mirror your unhealed wounds. Instead, you'll start connecting with those who reflect the healed, whole version of you. You'll stop searching for someone to complete you, because you'll no longer feel incomplete. The need to fill a void fades away. And in its place, you'll build connections rooted in shared wholeness, not emotional dependency. Because here's the truth, real love, the kind that lasts and uplifts, only becomes possible once you've walked this path of self-discovery. When you begin to love from fullness instead of from need, your relationships turn into spaces for mutual expansion, not just emotional survival. You won't need someone to fill the emptiness, because you'll already feel whole. And that brings us to the ultimate truth. The very part of yourself that you try to reject, that's often the same part quietly sabotaging your relationships. You can't truly love, not fully, unless you're willing to accept every part of who you are. Take a moment and think about the traits you dislike in yourself, the things you try to keep hidden, even from the people closest to you. That's your shadow. And until you bring that shadow into the light, it will keep showing up in your relationships, not as healing, but as projection. For instance, if arrogance in others really gets under your skin, chances are there's a part of you that's afraid of being seen that way yourself. Or if you often find yourself attracted to people who make you feel small, it might be because, deep down, you question your own worth. You're not sure if you're big enough. This is where the real work begins. Right here, you'll learn how to embrace and integrate your shadow, not so you can become perfect, but so you can become whole. Because only when you fully accept who you are, light and dark, can you experience love that's honest, deep, and real. Your shadow isn't just made up of the traits you consider bad or negative. It also holds your hidden gifts, the strengths and talents you haven't yet claimed. When you reject any part of yourself, you create inner fragmentation. And that fragmentation builds an invisible wall that stands between you and the deep connection you crave. But when you finally embrace every part of who you are, both the light and the overlooked brilliance, you stop chasing love outside yourself. You become love. And from that space, real, meaningful connection becomes not just possible, it becomes inevitable. See, that inner fragmentation is what drives us to look for in others what we haven't accepted in ourselves. Every time you judge someone harshly, you're not just seeing them, you're seeing a reflection. That trait that bothers you so much in someone else? It's often a signpost pointing to a part of you that still needs your attention. Pay close attention to the emotions that hit you hardest. Those intense reactions aren't random. They're golden clues, revealing the parts of yourself that are still waiting to be understood. Maybe you can't stand vulnerability in others because deep down, you're scared of your own fragility. Or maybe you find yourself judging people who chase big dreams, not because ambition is wrong, but because you haven't yet allowed yourself to want that kind of success, that level of recognition. Your shadow doesn't just show up in your frustrations. It also speaks through your romantic attractions. We're naturally drawn to people who openly express what we've learned to suppress. If you're irresistibly pulled toward dominant personalities, ask yourself, is there a part of me that's hungry to own my own power? If you're always drawn to partners who need rescuing, it might be because a piece of you is still yearning for nurturing, for care. Sabotage in relationships often doesn't shout, it whispers. You might be so afraid of being left behind that you unknowingly push people away before they even get the chance to stay. Or maybe your fear isn't abandonment, maybe it's being controlled. So even when your partner makes a perfectly reasonable suggestion, you resist it, almost automatically. These reactions don't come from nowhere. They're protective patterns, built by the parts of your shadow you haven't yet made peace with. Shadow integration takes real courage. And the very first step? It's being willing to look at yourself, honestly, and without judgment. The next time you feel a strong aversion to someone else's behavior, pause and ask, where might this live in me? Not to blame yourself, but to understand yourself more deeply. Integration also means gently giving voice to the parts of you you've kept silent. If your creativity has been buried, find spaces where you can let it breathe. If you push down your need for connection, practice opening up, little by little, with people you trust. Vulnerability, when safely shared, is a powerful part of healing. With time and care, the parts of you that once sabotaged your happiness can become sources of strength and wisdom. One powerful practice? Write a letter to your shadow. Acknowledge that it exists. Thank it for the ways it's tried to protect you, even if those ways were messy. And share your intention to meet it now with compassion, not fear. That kind of inner conversation can be the start of a deep, life-changing reconciliation with yourself. Here's the beautiful paradox. The more you accept your darkness, the more light you radiate. The more you embrace your imperfections, the more authentic you become. And it's that raw, honest authenticity that draws real, lasting connection into your life. The most profound relationships are born when two people show up whole, not perfect, but integrated, shadows and all. You're no longer looking for someone to complete the missing pieces. You are complete. And because you've accepted every part of yourself, you stop projecting your fears onto others. Instead, you meet them with understanding, because you've already done that inner work. Relationships aren't just meant to feel good, they're meant to help you grow. Every conflict, every reaction, every letdown is an invitation to understand yourself on a deeper level. In this session, you'll begin to see love differently, not as some final destination, but as a mirror, a path of self-discovery. Because until you truly get that, you'll keep running into the same patterns. If you often find yourself in relationships where you feel abandoned, it's not a coincidence. It's a signal, pointing to an old wound that still needs healing. And if you're always drawn to people who make you feel safe, it's likely because a part of you still doesn't feel secure within. Here, you'll learn how to shift your entire relationship with love, turning it from a frustrating pursuit into a powerful tool for inner transformation. Because when we see love only as a source of pleasure or comfort, we miss the bigger gift, its ability to awaken us, to evolve us, to make us whole. Relationships are life's most intense classroom, and the most honest mirror of your inner world. Every person who enters your life brings a lesson with them. And here's the truth: until you learn that lesson, the same pattern will keep repeating. The faces may change, but the underlying dynamic stays the same. These relationship patterns aren't just random events. If you take a closer look at your romantic history, you'll start to notice familiar themes, threads that connect experiences you once thought were completely different. Maybe you always end up with partners who feel emotionally distant. Or maybe you keep attracting people who seem to need saving. These recurring patterns aren't just coincidences, they're invitations to look inward. They're signals pointing directly at emotional wounds that still need your attention. Attachment theory shows us that the way we bonded with our caregivers early on shapes the way we relate to love as adults. If, as a child, you experience love as inconsistent or unpredictable, you may find yourself drawn to that same kind of instability later in life, not because it's healthy, but because it feels familiar. Even when it hurts, it feels like home. The first step in breaking free from these patterns is simply recognizing them. Because the real purpose of romantic love isn't just to make you happy, although happiness can absolutely come along for the ride. The deeper purpose is to reveal the hidden layers of yourself that you might never confront on your own. It's in the closeness of intimacy that your deepest fears, your protective walls, and your long-buried desires rise to the surface. Love isn't just about finding the perfect partner. It's about becoming the kind of person who can love with depth, with courage, and with conscious intention. When conflict shows up in your relationship, the most powerful question you can ask isn't, "Who's right?" It's, "What is this moment trying to teach me about myself?" Maybe your strong reaction to a seemingly harmless comment is uncovering a deeper insecurity you haven't yet faced. Or perhaps your constant urge to stay in control is really a shield, hiding a fear of being left behind. These insights might be uncomfortable, but they're pure gold for anyone truly committed to growth. Even your attractions are messengers. They pull you toward qualities that still lie dormant within you. If you find yourself in awe of someone's freedom, it could be because, deep down, you're craving more of that freedom in your own life. If you find yourself mesmerized by someone else's creativity, it might be more than admiration. It could be a clue. A sign that there's an artist inside you, waiting for permission to come alive. Your strongest attractions are never just random feelings. They're inner maps, quietly pointing you toward parts of your potential you've yet to explore. And when it comes to heartbreak, yes, it hurts. But within that pain lies a rare opportunity for growth. When a relationship ends, you face a choice. You can blame the other person and keep replaying the same old story, or you can look inward and ask, "What is this here to teach me?" That single choice shapes everything. It's what determines whether you walk away bitter or come out wiser. Mature love doesn't look for perfection. It looks for growth, together. A relationship grounded in that understanding isn't just about feeling good, it's about evolving side by side. In this kind of relationship, one built on conscious growth, every challenge becomes an invitation. An opportunity to expand, to dissolve limitations, and to heal together. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing love for happiness and start using it as a tool for growth, happiness shows up anyway, deeper, steadier, and more real than ever before. You no longer need ideal conditions or a flawless partner to feel whole. Instead, you begin to find fulfillment in the journey, in evolving alongside someone, in discovering yourself more deeply through the reflection they provide. The shift begins the moment you stop saying, "Why do I always end up with the same kind of person?" and start asking, "Why do I keep choosing them?" That simple change in mindset gives your power back. You're no longer a victim of bad luck or someone else's behavior. You become the conscious creator of your relational experiences. But make no mistake, choosing love as a path to growth takes courage. It means being willing to face the uncomfortable, to question long-held beliefs, and to release versions of yourself that no longer align with who you're becoming. But the reward for doing this inner work? It's profound. You begin to experience relationships that feel real, more authentic, more connected. You develop a deeper awareness of yourself. And most importantly, you learn to love from a place of freedom, not from a place of need. So why do you keep ending up in the same kinds of relationships? The answer isn't out there. It's within. It lives in your subconscious, in the patterns you repeat again and again. And those patterns? They're not accidents. They're signals, messages pointing to the parts of you that are still waiting to be healed. If you constantly feel drawn to people who bring pain, it could be that there's an old emotional wound beneath the surface, asking to be seen. If you keep looking to your partners for validation, maybe it's because a part of you still feels invisible or unworthy. But here's the good news. Today, you begin learning how to identify those patterns and break the cycle. You'll start creating healthier, more conscious connections, the kind that uplift you instead of drain you. Because until you do, those unhealed parts will keep pulling you back into relationships that leave you feeling empty. Toxic relationship patterns often feel like invisible loops, repeating with almost mathematical precision throughout your life. You might change partners, but the core dynamic remains stubbornly the same. But this isn't a curse. And it's not just bad luck. It's the result of deeply embedded subconscious programming, patterns running quietly in the background, guiding your choices without you even noticing. Most of these patterns were shaped in childhood, in those early years when you were just beginning to learn what love looks like and what it costs. If you grew up believing that love had to be earned, that it came with conditions, with performance, with pressure, then it's no surprise you now find yourself constantly chasing approval in your adult relationships. If affection in your past was often mixed with criticism, you may find yourself oddly at ease in relationships where conflict is always close by. It might not feel good, but it feels familiar. And what feels familiar tends to feel safe. That's the trap. As the saying goes, what is familiar feels safe, even when the familiar is painful. Your brain is hardwired to seek out what it knows, not necessarily what's healthy. This is why so many people leave one toxic relationship, only to walk straight into another that looks and feels hauntingly similar. The first step to breaking free from this cycle is self-awareness. Start by observing your relationship history as if you were watching a movie. Step back. Be curious. Notice the recurring roles, the repeating scripts, the patterns you've lived again and again. What patterns do you notice repeating over and over again? Do you often end up feeling abandoned? Are you consistently drawn to people who are emotionally unavailable? Or do you find yourself losing your sense of identity every time you're in a relationship? These aren't random. These are patterns, and they're trying to tell you something. Each one is a clue, pointing directly to a specific emotional wound you've carried for years. Behind every toxic relationship pattern is a limiting belief, one that quietly shapes your expectations and experiences. If you constantly attract people who betray your trust, there's a good chance you're holding onto a deep, unspoken belief that you don't deserve loyalty. If you find yourself in relationships where you feel controlled, it may be because, somewhere inside, you don't fully trust yourself to lead your own life. These beliefs operate like invisible magnets, silently pulling in experiences that seem to prove them true, again and again. Neuroscience shows us that these patterns aren't just psychological, they're also neurological. Each time you repeat a behavior, you reinforce a pathway in your brain. Over time, these circuits become strong automatic. That's why breaking them requires more than willpower. It takes conscious awareness and the intentional creation of new experiences that challenge your old habits. One powerful place to start is by identifying your emotional triggers, those moments when your reaction feels bigger than the situation itself. Maybe a simple delay in your partner's reply stirs up intense fear of being abandoned. Or maybe an offhand comment about your appearance hits a nerve you didn't know was still raw. These triggers aren't random. They're windows into your core wounds. And healing begins the moment you stop blaming others and start taking ownership of your patterns. Now, taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself. It means recognizing the role you played, often unconsciously, in keeping certain cycles alive. Because as long as you see yourself as a victim of your past or other people, you'll stay stuck in the loop. Real change begins the moment you take full responsibility for your experience. That's where your power lives. And to truly break these deep patterns, you have to reconnect with your body, because relationship addictions function much like any other addiction. Before you act compulsively, your body speaks. There are somatic signals, physical sensations, that show up right before you fall back into the same cycles. Learn to recognize what toxic attraction feels like in your body. That rush of excitement, that false sense of safety, that eerily comforting familiarity. Once you can identify those signals, you create space, the space to respond instead of react. That space is your power. A critical part of this process is setting boundaries, not just with others, but also with yourself. If you tend to lose your sense of self in relationships, build rituals that keep you grounded. Create time and space where you return to you, no matter who you're with. If you find yourself drawn to people with narcissistic traits, get clear on your boundaries. Define exactly what behaviors you will no longer tolerate. Boundaries aren't just rules, they're acts of self-love. They break the cycle of self-sabotage by protecting your growth. Real transformation begins when you choose a new path, even when it feels unfamiliar or uncomfortable. If you spent your life chasing drama and emotional highs, a calm, stable relationship might feel boring at first. That's okay. Discomfort is part of the rewiring process. You're building new neural circuits, new ways of experiencing love and connection. Just remember, breaking old patterns isn't a one-time breakthrough. It's a continuous practice. There will be setbacks. There will be moments where the past tries to pull you back. But every time you catch yourself, every time you pause, reflect, and choose a different response, you reinforce the new path you're creating. The beauty is, neuroplasticity is on your side. Every time you make a new, conscious choice, you're not just thinking differently, you're literally rewiring your brain. The goal here isn't perfect relationships. It's awareness, the kind of awareness that gives you the freedom to choose, rather than react. When you're no longer ruled by unconscious patterns, you stop recreating relationships based on your past wounds. Instead, you begin to build connections that reflect who you are now, whole, present, and free. You stop loving from a place of emptiness or need. You begin to love from wholeness, from freedom, from truth. Authentic love isn't something you find, it's something you create. And the moment you start loving yourself unconditionally, love stops being a goal and becomes your natural state of being. This is the shift that changes everything. Because until you realize this, you'll keep searching out there for what has always been waiting inside. Love isn't something you give or take. It's not a transaction. It's who you are. And when you live from that truth, your relationships stop being a source of pain. They become a natural expression of your being. Because love isn't a destination you reach. It's a journey you live. We've been raised to believe that love is something outside of us, something that finds us if we're lucky enough, worthy enough, beautiful enough. That romantic idea might sound appealing, but it places us in a passive role. We wait to be chosen, to be seen, to be loved. But that perspective flips the true nature of love on its head. Real, authentic love doesn't come from the outside. It rises from within, like a spring that never runs dry. When you depend on others to feel loved, you enter a cycle of constant need, always chasing, always lacking. It's like trying to fill a cup that keeps leaking. No matter how much you pour in, it's never enough. Love that comes from outside will always be limited, temporary, conditional, and bound by another person's capacity to give. The real shift happens when you realize that you are the source of your own love experience. You don't need anyone's permission to love yourself. You don't need credentials, achievements, or approval. Self-love isn't something you earn once you've proven you're enough. It's your birthright. It's your natural state. And when you begin to take down the walls you built against yourself, the self-criticism, the doubt, the shame, you'll find that unconditional self-love is a quiet revolution. Especially in a world that teaches you to measure your worth by how much you produce, how you look, or what you accomplish. Loving yourself means honoring who you are in your failures just as much as in your victories. It means speaking to yourself with the same kindness and compassion you'd give to someone you love, someone you'd never abandon. It means recognizing your inherent worth, not because of anything you've achieved, and not based on anyone else's approval, just because you are. As you nurture a loving, grounded relationship with yourself, something powerful starts to shift in your outer world. You no longer approach relationships from a place of lack or need, but from a place of fullness. You stop searching for someone to fill the emptiness. Instead, you begin offering what already overflows from within you. If this message resonates with you, and you'd like to support my work, you can do so through Buy Me a Coffee. Even one cup helps me keep creating meaningful, transformative content for you. The link is in the description. And here's the beautiful irony. The moment you stop needing love so desperately, you become more open, more capable of receiving it in its purest form. Your relationships evolve. They're no longer about completing you. They're about expanding you. You don't look for someone to make you happy. You bring the happiness you've already built. You don't depend on someone else to heal you, though healing can happen together. And you don't rely on another person to make you feel worthy, even as you deeply appreciate being seen through their eyes. This is the shift that changes everything. It transforms not only how you love, but who you're drawn to in the first place. When you operate from a place of lack, you naturally attract people who mirror your unhealed wounds. But when you operate from wholeness, you begin to draw in those who reflect your self-respect, people who match the frequency of your self-love. It's the difference between an attraction rooted in emotional addiction and one rooted in true resonance. And at this point, self-love is no longer just something you practice, it becomes the way you exist. A daily act of self-loving, lived, breathed, embodied. It's not narcissism. In fact, it's the opposite. Narcissism stems from deep insecurity, from an inner void that constantly craves attention, praise, and validation. But real self-love? It doesn't need the spotlight. It's quiet, it's steady, and it radiates from within. Authentic self-love begins when you fully recognize and honor your complete humanity, not just the polished parts, but all of you. And when you embrace yourself this way, something shifts. You begin to see others more clearly, with more compassion, because you're no longer projecting your unmet needs onto them. One powerful practice is conscious self-compassion. When difficult emotions rise, fear, sadness, anger, shame, don't push them away. Don't label them as weaknesses. Instead, welcome them as part of your human experience. Not flaws to fix, but signals to feel. This kind of radical acceptance transforms everything, your inner world, your outer world, and the way you love. Remember, love isn't a finish line you cross, it's a daily choice. A living, breathing practice. There will be days when loving yourself feels harder. Days when old voices of judgment creep back in. But don't let that discourage you. Every single moment of awareness is a chance to return, to pause, to breathe, and to choose love again. Each time you return to yourself after a moment of disconnection, you deepen your ability to love authentically. And here lies the greatest paradox of all. The moment you stop searching for love as if it's something missing, you realize it's been here all along. Like a fish searching for the ocean while already swimming in it, you've been immersed in love the entire time. Your task isn't to find it. It's to see it, to allow it, to express it, first toward yourself, and then, naturally, it flows outward to everything around you. This is the timeless truth that mystics and sages have whispered across the ages. Love is not something you do. Love is who you are. And when you begin living from that truth, everything changes. Every relationship, every encounter, every moment becomes an expression of the loving essence that has always lived within you. Love isn't a reward for being good enough. It's a state that naturally arises when you accept yourself, fully, both your light and your shadows. No one can love you more deeply than you can love yourself. And that is the key. Because once you understand this, love is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you are, something you share. If this message spoke to your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to keep exploring how to transform your life from the inside out, hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. Remember, love isn't something you find. It's something you build. And that journey? It starts today. Thank you for walking this path with me, and I'll see you in the next video. Until next time.